Hello and welcome to Unleashed. I'm your host, Will Bachman, and I'm happy to be here today with Dimitris Samouris, who spent 8 years at EY Parthenon, where he did a ton of due diligence, and he's now developed a tool called Junior to help in the due diligence process, and we're going to dive into it. This will be an audio recording, but I'm going to be looking at Dimitris' screen, so we'll narrate what he's showing me. Dimitris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Will.
So, Dimitris, I'm looking at the screen right now. It looks like this is kind of the login main dashboard. First of all, give me an overview. What is Junior for? What's the use case?
Yeah, so Junior is a SaaS tool built on top of large language models and speech-to-text models. So we leverage the latest advances in AI to help you process your primary research work streams. You're doing loads of calls with experts and customers for a DD in a very short period of time, and there's loads of kind of low-level admin associated with that research execution that we can really help give you a leg up.
Okay, so this is very particularly for in the due diligence process. It's not all your secondary research. This is particularly around all of your primary interviews that you're conducting, helping to manage all the admin. And
that's right. And also surface insights much faster than you used to. So in the old world, you got multiple people on a call, someone's furiously taking notes. They spend a lot of time cleaning those notes, summarizing them, extracting data points in a structured manner to go into your report. Junior helps automate a big chunk of that so you can focus a little bit more on the so what and the big picture answer rather than on that execution side of things.
Because you're going to do transcripts and then draw insights from those transcripts.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So the starting point here is an audio recording of your call with the expert or the customer. We have built a custom transcription solution that is best in class. So you'll get a highly accurate transcript. Actually, why don't I jump straight in and show
Sure.
you the
walk us through it.
Are happening. So what you see in front of you is your call tracker. This is the knowledge repository that you've built for this specific engagement. And each of the rows you see here is an interview that you've conducted.
Okay, before you jump to the call summary, let me just narrate for the listeners who don't get to have my eyeballs on it, what I'm seeing. So I'm looking at this, and the first screen here is just a simple table. Can you close the sidebar for a second?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing just a help tracker, right? So we have name of the individual, the segment that they're in, and the names can be anonymized if we need to. But so we have name, we have segment that the person was in, the job title, their company, the customer size, if known, their country, the date and time of the interview, the call status, whether it was done or not, and the review status. So if it's been reviewed or not. So we just have an overall table of all the interviews on this screen. This is the call screen.
This is your project management tool for running the call work stream, and it's very customizable. The key point here, Will, is that anything that you tag metadata to, we can cross-cut later in the primary research. So if you only want to get quotes from French customers or German competitors, you can cross-cut that on the basis of what you've tagged here.
Okay, great. Okay, so where can we go from here?
So if I click any of these rows, you'll open a call drawer, which has 3 parts. So moving from right to left. On the right-hand side, step 1, going from speech to text, we have a highly accurate verbatim transcript. But one of the key things we learned in our user research early on is that no one really uses these. No one has time during a case to read a 30-page verbatim transcript of an hour-long conversation. So the first thing we do is we clean that transcript for you, and we get you something that's a little bit more polished, more client or partner ready, let's say. And that cleaning process entails chunking a transcript into relevant question and answer pairs, and then cleaning those pairs for colloquialisms, informal language, repetition, interruption, sort of all the things that are part and parcel of the way humans communicate, but you don't actually really care about having for a copy of your research. So in that process, we're typically stripping out about half of the text that's in the verbatim, which is always there. You'll have the audio file as a backup as well if you want it for reference material, but the clean transcript's just something a little bit more digestible.
Oh, wow. So you actually take out of the sort of less useful back and forth, or to really just get the meat of the content.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing. So, and by the way, listeners, at the bottom of this very episode you're listening to, you have a link to go to umbrex.com/unleashed and see the full transcript of our episode. And you can tell it, our transcript looks kind of like the original transcript that I'm looking at on the right-hand side of Junior. It's just a long string of text, not very easily digest. In the middle column here, this clean transcript, very nice. The questions in bold and then the answers unbolded below it. And it's kind of very little light rectangles around each question and answer pair. So easy to jump quickly to the part that you are looking for. So that's a pretty nice feature. And then on the left-hand side, talk us about the left. That's even more powerful. You have stats and key takeaways.
So the final step, Will, is moving from a clean transcript to a call summary. And that has two components to it. The first is you'll see at the top this stats box. So as part of the research, right, you're asking a lot of quantitative focus questions because you're going to be using those as inputs to benchmarking or a market model that you're building. What we do is we extract every single numerical data point that was referenced in your call, and then we use AI to label it and store it in one place for you. So that all sits there for you to review after the call. And then the second half is a set of key takeaways, and this is an AI generated summary of the key points of the call. Just something to note for AI summaries for listeners that have played with GPT or other related tools. They're very average. The reason they're average is because they lack context, and you really need to guide a language model because it doesn't have commercial acumen. It can't prioritize. There's no reasoning engine behind these things. You can set templates in Junior in advance about the key topic areas that you want pulled out in the summary. And you can also go after the call and prompt it further to focus it on the bits that you thought were most important.
Okay. So that pulls out the key takeaways, and there's some training behind that, teaching it about what you're typically looking for in a due diligence and what sorts of things to summarize and look for. So it's key takeaways and there's bullet points there. So these are really just about, you could copy and paste them into a deck of saying, here's the key takeaways from this call.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. We leverage information that you put in at the beginning of starting a project. So if you've got a scope document with the key questions or an interview guide that you've written, we use that information to help guide the AI to produce a higher quality summary than what you'd get off the shelf.
Amazing. Okay. So this is just one individual call. Now take me up a level. I think that you guys can do something to look across calls as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And so the immediate value in the transcription obviously saves you a bunch of time and in the summarization, but that's just the entry point for the tool. I think the power of Gen AI comes from when you have really large unstructured data sets that you want to analyze thematically. And so we've built a couple of workflow tools specifically for the consulting industry to help you get to that slide output a little bit faster. So there's three main things I want to cover. The first is a feature we a bit cheekily call Ctrl F. It's search on steroids. In the old world, Will, when I was in consulting, we'd drop 100 pages worth of call notes towards the end of a deal into a single Word doc. And it was some poor analyst's job to flick between all of those notes and find relevant quotes that we could stick in the deck for color commentary.
I have been that analyst. So I feel that pain. I've been that analyst. All right.
I'm sticking in a term now in the search term for Control F. In this case, so the demo project we're looking at is regarding EdTech software. So if I search for the word procurement, because my manager wants me to build a slide on how schools build software, you'll notice here that there are 0 keyword matches. So the word procurement didn't come up once in the 17 calls that we ran, but we've pulled out a bunch of conceptual matches. And if you start to read through the question and answer pairs that we've pulled out, you'll see that they're highly germane to the topic. So how are contracts structured with vendors and what's the price based on? Explain the importance of implementation when transitioning to a new system. What happens when a contract comes up for renewal? Like all of these things are very, very important to describing the buying process for a school. But in the old world, if you're just searching for keywords, that all gets missed out.
Yeah, this is very powerful. So the word procurement's not here, but you can call up quotes like, oh, when the contract comes up for renewal, schools typically renegotiate a new contract to secure the best price with minimal disruption. So you can see things that are procurement adjacent or procurement related conceptually. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
What else? That's Control F.
That's Control F, and something I want to highlight for your listeners is the importance of auditability and traceability when you're using Gen AI tools, and that's something that we've built in as a design principle throughout. So if I press this eyeball icon here, it will snap me to that conversation and where that insight was pulled from, and I can see both the clean transcript and the verbatim transcript next to it and play back the audio across the top. So you always have this like line of traceability back all the way to the original source.
That's not a problem just with Gen AI. I mean, when you're doing
Yeah.
a human consultant powered project, it's easy to, you sanitize a quote, you don't put the name on it, and then the client's like, "Oh, who's that from?" And you're trying to figure out where did that quote come from. Particularly if you paraphrased, it can be a problem tracing it back. So this, automates a lot of that and lets you kind of click back to the original transcript for that person. That's very nice.
The feedback we've gotten from customers is that it took them on average like 45 minutes to build a quote slide from scratch previously, and they've got that down to 15 to 20 minutes using Junior now.
I can imagine. All right. So that's pretty neat. Show me what's the next quant tracker. So now we're on another page called quant tracker.
Yeah, and so what the quant tracker is a AI native spreadsheet table that we've built that automates the data input. So for those questions that you're looking to track systematically across the research and build more of a quant view in order to build a graph, or you're going to throw it into some sort of market model, I'm thinking questions will like NPS, satisfaction, risk of switching, who your vendor is, all of that stuff. Rather than having an analyst fill that into some Excel table manually after the call, you set up questions that you want to track along the top here. And then every time you drop in a transcript, you'll see along the side, we ping that transcript with the questions that you've set up and fill out that table for you.
Wow. Okay.
Just like with Control F, if I click into any of these, you'll see here on the right-hand side, you have the source that we've used. We attach a confidence rating next to it so that we let you know where you need to double check the quality of work that the AI is putting out. And all of this is exportable immediately into Excel if you want to do any analysis on it.
Well, I mean, this is just what you would want. I mean, I've definitely been on projects where a human would be doing this very same thing of taking all of the interviews and you have certain questions and trying to pull into a table the quantitative information or the structured data, kind of which is the provider that this firm uses and how many people do they have and what do they say. So this makes total sense. Very nice.
And the last thing I wanted to show you, Will, was Junior GPT, which is a chatbot over the transcripts that we've fine-tuned for the consulting and investment research use case. So I'm just going to show you an example of the output that you can expect and go into a little bit about what makes this unique versus other chatbots. So, I've asked a very straightforward diligence question here. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this asset? And we show you what search terms we use to generate the evidence base. And then we've trained the chatbot to produce structured MECE answers with evidence attached to each of these arguments. So you see here under, for example, comprehensive data access and customization, I can click into that full hyperlink. And again, it shows me what the expert in that case said that led the chatbot to include that in the answer.
Got it. So here we have sort of a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, kind of a output. And for each individual finding or insight, you can link it back and find the original quote in the original interview as the source data. So that's very powerful. I want to ask you, just in the few minutes we have left here, so looks like a very useful tool specifically for people that are doing a bunch of interviews, whether that's for due diligence or for any kind of customer insights, voice of the customer. I mean, any big interview project, it'd be helpful. It doesn't have to be due diligence. Tell us a little bit about who some of your big clients are today, or you can sanitize it if you need to. And for a consulting firm or for an independent who wants to use the tool, what's the pricing? What's the sign up process? How does that work?
Yeah, so we are working with 6 of the top 10 consulting firms in the market, most particularly ones that are kind of heavy on the commercial due diligence side of things, a longer tail of boutiques, and then increasingly private equity is finding use in this as well. So we're working with a lot of the kind of growth equity and large cap funds that do a lot of primary research. We price on a usage basis. So it's $100 a transcript, and that typically gets billed back to the client as part of the research expenditure, along with the expert networks, for example, that you use to source these calls.
Sure. That's not a trivial amount of money, but it's something that I can imagine expensing back to the client, especially if you're using one of the big alpha sites or GLG. You're already paying, $1,400 for the interview, and your own time has costs. So, a tool like this, it's an extra $100 for each interview, but it's going to save you a lot of time on the, analysis and synthesis and so forth. So
yeah, that's right. So
is this like a SaaS? Just sign up yourself? Like any person can just sign up and start using the tool, or what's the sign up process?
The sign up process is you'll need to reach out to us. It's not entirely self-serve at the minute, Will, because what we do is we spin up a new instance for each user of the platform. And that's because we take data security very seriously, given that we're serving private M&A. So we only do login with single sign-on. We'll need to integrate with whatever tech stack you're using so that you can only log in with your email. But we can get that all set up very quickly. So, within a day of you reaching out to us, we can have you up and going on the platform.
And where should someone go if they want to reach out and sign up?
You can go to myjunior.ai and fill out the waitlist form there, or just ping me an email directly at dimitris@myjunior.ai. That's DIMITRIS@myjunior.ai, and we'll set up a demo call and get you started.
And for listeners that were intrigued by my play-by-play description, but would like to see with their own eyeballs the demo or some screenshots, or is there on your website? Will they be able to see some examples of what these screens look like?
Absolutely, and I'll provide you with a link to some sales collateral with the demo video as well. Will, you can put that alongside your podcast.
Amazing, Dimitri. Thank you for spending some time to walk me through this tool. And it looks very powerful. Congratulations on your growth so far. And thank you for spending some time with us to walk us through it.
Oh, cheers. Thank you